What is going on, Only Playbook fans? I am back for another episode. Last time you probably saw Shashot and Shovit, did not see me, and now it's just me. I am holding down the fort today as we continue to just all three of us have different crazy schedules, but we have 1 week before playoffs start, week 14. This is a clinching week for so many people in our league, myself included. I have to win to get in. So much important fantasy football related information we want to get out. Start sits, boom busts, hidden gems, defenses, and kickers to get you ready for the final week before playoffs kick off. Let's break it all down. All right. Thank you so much for everybody that sent in the start sit questions. So I'm going to run through these as fast as I can with as much information as I can. A lot of these players are recycled since we have 6 teams on bye. So, slim pickings for some of these players that you're trying to stream, specifically the quarterback position. So we start with the quarterbacks. We have a couple of questions here. Will Levis is a popular streaming option this week. He is taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. First question, Will Levis against the Jaguars or Caleb Williams versus the San Francisco 49ers? Will Levis, again, has one of the easiest remaining schedules in all of football for the quarterback position. I think he's been putting up at least 15 points the last 3 weeks, so you're establishing a solid floor with an advantageous matchup in the Jacksonville Jaguars that are allowing basically points to every skill position on offense. And then you have Caleb Williams, started off super cold, had a really hot streak in there, cooled off again. And then recently with Thomas Brown taking over, 3 straight weeks, 16 plus points, 2 straight weeks, 26 plus points. So is that a trend to continue? He draws a little bit of a tougher matchup with the San Francisco 49ers versus Will Levis against the Jaguars. But to me, they are right next to each other in my personal rankings for the week. So it is kind of a coin toss. What I will say here is you have Caleb Williams, a rookie quarterback, second half of the season coming on, new offensive coach that's taken over middle of the season. So trending in the right direction. And then here you have Will Levis, which you really don't know what you're going to get. He's a complete gunslinger. But again, the matchup is really, really advantageous. I don't fault you whichever way you want to lean. I know Caleb's burned a lot of people so far this year. People that drafted him to be, your quarterback of the future for fantasy football was not the case at all. And Will Levis, obviously, again, he's such a dart throw, such a wild card that he could drop 30 points for you, or he could drop a complete dud because the Jaguars are so bad that the Tennessee Titans could win this game multitude of ways. So again, for me, it's a complete coin toss. I am actually juggling this exact decision in my fantasy football league. And right now I have Caleb Williams in my lineup. I had Will Levis. I dropped him, picked up Caleb Williams. So I am just in a much of a pickle in this situation as y'all are, whoever's listening. Thank you so much. But with that being said, if I had to pick, I'm going to bet on the talent of Caleb Williams. He's offering a nice rushing floor the last couple of weeks that I think slowly has been building into his game, and I've noticed him want to scramble a little bit more. So just that running aspect offers him a little bit safer of a floor. Again, it's a risky play, winning in week, and I am putting all my eggs in Caleb Williams' basket. Second start sit, Will Levis again versus Jacksonville, or this time Jordan Love versus Detroit. To me, I go Jordan Love versus Detroit. Division game. Detroit really, really good against the run. The Packers are going to have to throw the football to be successful. Romeo Doubs, I believe, is out, but that shouldn't really matter. You're just going to get Tucker Kraft and Dontavian Wicks involved a little bit more. Christian Watson comes into the fold. Obviously, you have Jayden Reed. So I still lean Jordan Love because of the matchup with Detroit. Again, they're decimated on injuries. The front seven is completely battered down right now. So even if their secondary is good, their defensive line and linebacking group cannot generate enough pressure. Jordan Love should have a lot of time to throw the football. So again, talent is what I'm betting on here. I'm going to take Jordan Love over Will Levis. Russell Wilson versus the Cleveland Browns, or Kirko Chains reuniting, coming back to Minnesota for a revenge game in Minneapolis. This is a no-brainer. Russell Wilson just threw for 450 yards, I believe, and 3-4 touchdowns against the Bengals. Granted, that was a really, really advantageous matchup, but right now, Russell Wilson, the deep ball, everything is clicking. We saw what the Browns, were in that shootout just this past week where Jameis had to throw for a boatload of yards. I expect Pittsburgh to still be able to score against this Cleveland defense despite their front seven. Russ can still evade the pocket slightly. His deep ball is still beautiful. So, and Cleveland's good against the run. So I expect them to have to throw the football. I'm taking Russell Wilson here. Similar Kirk Cousins versus Jameis Winston against Pittsburgh on the other side. Give me Jameis. Jameis, you know what you're going to get. It's a roller coaster. He might throw 4 picks. 2 of them are pick sixes. He's going to throw the football 55 times. So you're going to have opportunities. Yards will probably be there. He might throw a couple of touchdowns. Again, you're going to have to live with the turnovers. That's just part of his game. But he throws the ball so much. volume is the name of the game. We talk about it in the running backs for rushing attempts. We talk about it for receivers with targets, passing attempts for Jameis Winston. All this man does is sling the ball. So I still lean Jameis Winston over Kirk Cousins here. Running backs, we have starting 2 of the 4 here. Chuba Hubbard against the Philadelphia Eagles. Isaac Guerendo, who is now taking over lead back duties for the San Francisco 49ers with injuries to CMC and Jordan Mason, who are both on the IR. Isaac Guerendo against Chicago. Tyrone Tracy against the New Orleans Saints, or DeAndre Swift versus the San Francisco 49ers. This is really, really interesting. If I have to pick 2 here, just right off the cuff, I'm taking Guerendo versus Chicago just because we want to start running backs that play in the system for the 49ers. We've seen Guerendo already have success this year. We saw Mason be the starting running back and have tremendous amounts of success. And CMC in the little time already kind of last week, at least, looked like himself before he got injured. So Chicago is good against the run, so it's not the best matchup, but this is a team that loves to run. They love to establish the play action off of the run. So give me Guerendo here. And I'm going to take Tyrone Tracy against the Saints. Again, the Giants are a team that are searching for playmakers and weapons. I understand Tyrone Tracy comes with a little bit of fumbling issues that he's had. Devin Singletary ate into his playing time a little bit last week, but they understand, and we all on the field watching the games understand who is the superior athlete and talent, and it is Tyrone Tracy. So I still like Tyrone Tracy to get his work here and be successful. The thing with Chuba Hubbard is bad matchup against Philadelphia, and it's the highest snap count we've seen for Jonathan Brooks, who is the rookie, in fact, who is somebody that, at worst, what they want to at least spell Chuba Hubbard. So you know there's somebody that's going to be coming in that isn't a veteran like Devin Singletary to Tracy. It's actually, in fact, he is the younger rookie that they drafted really, really early. So you have to assume that they want to work him in a little bit. DeAndre Swift versus San Francisco, not a good matchup. Swift had a couple of 4 or 5 good games here, but he's pretty touchdown dependent, so I don't like him. So if I had to pick, I'm going Tracy Guerendo there. Calvin Ridley, the receivers, Calvin Ridley versus Jacksonville, DJ Moore versus San Francisco, or Jaylen Waddle versus the Jets. Man, this is an interesting one because Jaylen Waddle had a big game. Tua's coming into his own. The Dolphins offense finally seems to be clicking. The Jets are the best, I believe, if not one of the best against opposing wide receivers in terms of fantasy points. And we've seen the Dolphins just love to run the ball with Achane, dump it off to Achane, and use their new shiny toy weapon galore, Jonnu Smith. So no Tyreek, no Jaylen, doesn't really matter. They're going to use Devon Achane and they're going to use Jonnu Smith. So Jaylen Waddle is too big of a boom bust for me. Calvin Ridley, again, the matchup is beautiful. The targets are there. We're just waiting for enough production to warrant the matchups and the targets and the situation completely being really beautiful. So I like Calvin Ridley, and DJ Moore, again, since the takeover, has been coming into his own, is getting a ton of targets, is getting a lot of catches. They're finding different ways to get him the ball. It's not just all downfield. Screen passes, manufactured passes for him. So right now I lean Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore there, as crazy as that sounds. Deebo Samuel versus the Chicago Bears, Malik Nabers versus the Saints, or Brian Thomas Jr. versus the Titans. Nabers versus the Saints and Brian Thomas Jr. versus the Titans. Right now, Deebo Samuel is not startable. I know there's a world where now with 2 injuries to running backs, he's a receiver that can run the ball. So they could use him more. Certainly could see an increase in workload, but he hasn't been 100% all year. He doesn't even look like he's playing at 100%. It's just been a really, really off year for Deebo, man. And in a week where winning in, clinching it in, we've seen boom weeks for Brian Thomas Jr. We've seen Malik Nabers be a wide receiver 1 before. So I want to be able to take those guys in my final week if I possibly can. We're back to Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle versus the Jets, or Jayden Reed versus Detroit. Jayden Reed versus Detroit. I'm just going to take, again, Green Bay needs to throw the football. They can't run the ball. Divisional game, big matchup Thursday night. I want Jayden Reed. Jaylen Waddle versus Christian Watson versus Detroit. This is a little bit more interesting here. Christian Watson is somebody that I just despise starting in fantasy because he is so capable of giving you a complete goose egg. I mean, he could have a 70-yard bomb thrown into his breadbasket for a walk-in touchdown, and you just don't know if he's going to catch it. So that is the fear I have for Christian Watson. Again, the opportunities should be aplenty here. No Romeo Doubs. They're going to be in a game script where I feel like they have to throw the football. Detroit's good against the run. So I want to lean Watson, but I think in the Watson-Waddle situation, I slightly lean Jaylen Waddle. Jerry Jeudy versus Pittsburgh, or Devonta Smith versus Carolina. Don't care about the matchup. Jerry Jeudy right now is wide receiver 3 over the last several weeks. Jameis Winston's made this guy relevant, not just relevant, but like insane. He probably could be a league winner. Jerry Jeudy right now must be started in all formats all the time. Wow. Kicker question. Matthew Wright, Kansas City kicker versus the Chargers, or Cade York, who Cincinnati just picked up because Evan McPherson is not going to play. So Cade York for the Bengals against the Commanders, or Matthew Wright, who again, they're gonna play another week because the other kicker that was replacing Butker is also hurt. So Matthew Wright is probably going to kick this week again versus the Chargers. Give me Matthew Wright versus the Chargers. Better defense in the Chargers. I just think Kansas City's offense can sputter at times, but at least they should be able to move the football. I think there will be a lot of kicking action to be had. Cade York, Cincinnati versus Washington. I see that more as a shootout, more touchdown potential in Cincinnati. Again, they're in desperation mode, man. I see them being more privy to going for it on fourth down, doing things like that versus Kansas City. Tough divisional matchup, two good defenses. I think the kicking game is going to reign supreme. So give me Matthew right there. That's all I have for start sits. Let's get into my boom and my bust. My boom this week, guys, is going to be Will Dissly, tight end for the Chargers. He is taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. We just talked about it. A couple things I want to highlight here. The Kansas City Chiefs are 29th against tight ends in fantasy points right now. They are an absolute funnel to the tight end position because they don't like to give up anything outside the boundaries. And the other thing is the Chargers might be without their number one pass catcher, Ladd McConkey. And if he in fact is out, or even if he's slightly injured, hobbled, playing not at 100%, Will Dissly should absolutely feast in the middle of this field. 5 to 7 catches easily. Let's hope he gets into the end zone. But Will Dissly is my boom this week. And my bust this week, we already talked about it a little bit. Chuba Hubbard is my bust. Again, the matchup I don't like. Philadelphia 5th against running backs. And we talked about Jonathan Brooks increasing workload a little bit. I know they paid Chuba Hubbard, but they also drafted Jonathan Brooks super early. And he's finally, healthy, slowly getting healthier. I just know that they're going to eat into his workload. And reverse game script, you can't necessarily always count on pass catching from these running backs. I don't know who's going to be that guy. Brooks is capable pass catcher. So is Chuba Hubbard. So I just think bad matchup and a running back that's on the heels of, increasing and eating into Chuba's workload. But what I will say, again, with the headline is 6 teams are on buys this week. I don't think a lot of people have the flexibility or freedom to bench a guy like Chuba Hubbard, who's been so good this season. So again, if you got to start him, you got to start him. I'm just tempering your expectations of what may happen in terms of the final score that he puts up. My hidden gem, kicker and defense. Kicker Will the Thrill Reichard for the Minnesota Vikings is back, officially healthy. He should take back the kicking duties for the Vikings as they take on the Falcons. Again, it's indoors. I expect a ton of opportunity back and forth. Points will be scored. Will Reichard is as safe as a bet of any kicker this week, in my opinion, to get you at least 10 fantasy points from the kicking position. And defense. Cardinals defense versus Seattle Seahawks are my hidden gem streaming option. They were available in both of my leagues, so I imagine they're available widely. They're the 12th defense ranked in all of football so far. Last 4 weeks, they've put up 42 combined fantasy points and averaging a little over 10 a game, including just 2 weeks ago against the same Seattle team. In Seattle, they put up 10 fantasy points. So now they're playing in Arizona. Again, this defense is good. I think their biggest problem is the pass rush isn't consistent and isn't always quite there, but the secondary is really good, and sometimes they can mask that. So again, I think a divisional matchup, Seattle, that offense, they throw a lot, but Geno hasn't had the quite the output that you would expect in terms of consistent success. So there are sacks and there are potentially turnovers to be had. So I like the Cardinals defense there against Seattle. That is my hidden gem this week. Kicker Will Reichard for the Vikings, and defense, the Cardinals streaming defense against Seattle. Guys, that is all I have for this week. Short and sweet. That is what I think. Those are who I would start versus who I would sit. Those are my booms and my busts, and those are my hidden gems. So again, really, really pressure high situation. Week 14, winning in for me. I bet a lot of you guys are in similar situations. Again, just leave it all out on the table. There's no what ifs. There's no playing it safe. You got to win to get in. This is a big, big week. So good luck to every single one of you guys. If you're watching, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps spread the word to other people that may enjoy this content just like you do. If you're listening, you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok are our socials at The Only Playbook. I am Sweetcard. This is my Twitter handle right below me. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic week. Good luck and strap up. There's an amazing Thursday night football game. Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers on tap shortly. Fantastic week 14. Win your matchups and let's hit the playoffs.